Welcome to my Days of Our Lives official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Indian Beautiful made amazing XXX hot coitus with Joe. Rearmost viral coitus wearing diminutives and a white croaker. Fleece, Stefen walks off the sanitarium elevator holding the hype. He stops in his tracks upon seeing Officer Goldman posted at Steve's door. Stefen puts on a medical mask as he approaches her. Upon seeing him, she pointedly says it's time for a coffee run. She pats his shoulder as she saunters down. "Son of a bitch," Stefen says as his wide eyes follow her. Stefen sideways ganders while wearing a medical mask and lab fleece at the sanitarium. At the Black Patch office, John looks over Steve's shoulder as the Ultimate discovers Trip and Wendy's last given position, the domain, through cell phone tangs. Assuming their phones have been dissociated, Steve declares they need to move through aft channels now. John gets a call from Brady, who's with Theresa at the halfway house. He asks if John can make it. Steve urges his chum to go. As soon as John leaves, a gregarious Konstantin barges in, offering Steve baklava. Steve passes. Growing serious, Konstantin recalls how his son loved the confection. Steve shouts at him to leave. Konstantin relates to Steve's torture over his son's exposure. He misses Katharina more as time goes on, not lower. Growing emotional, Steve understands the pain of his loss. More meet the cast of The Good Woman derivation. Konstantin holds out a hogshead of baklava in the Black Patch office. When Nicole brings Holly food into her room, the teen tries to wrap her brain around what little she's been told about her coma. Since Nicole isn't letting her see her phone, she wonders what she's not telling her. EJ joins them and helps his stepdaughter out of bed. Holly sits in front of her funk broth and bananas, but wants a burger and feasts rather. EJ delights in the mama/son badinage that ensues. At the halfway house, Brady learns he's not on Tate's callers list. Crestfallen, he tells Theresa to go on without him. In a community room, Theresa rushes to Tate's arms. She brings up Brady, but Trip wouldn't be guilt-tripped into seeing him. Remedy brought up a lot of stuff about how Brady wasn't there for him growing up in California. "It was me," Theresa admits. "I kept you from your father." Theresa confesses to a stupefied Tate that she made up a taradiddle, entwining his father in a murder case, which got her guardianship of him. She's hurt Brady so much further than he has hurt either of them. Brady loves him and always will. She tearfully adds that she got high the first night he was transferred down. John comes upon them as she further details how Brady helped her through it. John praises Theresa for telling the verity, and tells Tate they all have tentative love for him ever. Further SALEM Sebastian Roche cast in Korean drama. Tate gapes at Theresa at the halfway house. Stefen sneaks into a sleeping Harris sanitarium room. He brings the hype to Harris for bag, but Harris grabs his arm. Not so presto. He hops out of bed and puts Stefen in a chokehold. As Stefen struggles to breathe, Harris orders him to take the fall for this and also help him take down Clyde. With a look of anguish, Steve tells Konstantin his son's death was a terrible accident, but he didn't substantiation it directly. Konstantin believes else. He urges Steve to release the guilt and admit the verity. Steve says nothing will relieve him of the guilt, but he admits he was there. "God, how I wish I hadn't been." He was the pawn's tutor for Victor and was called down to admit instruction. When he came back, there was a youthful girl lying dead. That image has tortured him all this time, but he didn't know who she was. The pawn was holding the gun, and someone differently was lying coming to the girl, flat on the ground. He couldn't see their face, but he knows it was Konstantin. Further, Sloane temporarily remakes sitting in a sanitarium bed in her bedroom. Holly looks imploringly at Nicole. In her room, Holly asks Nicole and EJ to tell her everything about her coma. EJ explains she had opioid-bejeweled medicines in her system. Medicines? What? EJ assures her they know she doesn't do medicines and they will get to the bottom of what happened. They further explain that she nearly failed on New Year's Eve. EJ asks Holly if Tate gave her the medicines. Holly doesn't flash back taking any medicines, so someone must have given them to her. Perhaps they were slipped into her drink. She asks to rest and EJ helps her back to bed. When they leave, Holly exhales and looks around worriedly. After Tate allows his father in as a caller and John has left, Brady comes to the community room. Theresa leaves them alone as Tate tells Brady he knows the style and why of Theresa taking him to California. In Harris' room, he threatens Stefen with captivity time if he doesn't work for him. Releasing him, he asks if Stefen is ready to play ball. Catching his breath, Stefen nods. Further, the Hortons were nearly written out of Salem. Harris holds Stefen in a chokehold at the sanitarium. In Steve's office, Konstantin explodes over wanting to find John. Steve points out he was converted into the pawn by Stefano, who's dead. And so is Victor. So, go spear on their graves, but leave John alone. Konstantin will ensure Steve and John suffer. He'll have justice. In bed, Holly recalls kissing Tate on New Year's Eve. In the hall, EJ tells Nicole he's positive that Tate roofied Holly. Latterly, Nicole sits at her sleeping son's bedside. When EJ enters, Nicole expresses her stopgap that those medicines were Aunt Holly's. Because if they were, it means she failed as a mama. She calls her selfish and tone-absorbed, but EJ counters that she's a awful mama and Holly is innocent in all of this. After they leave, a distraught Holly opens her eyes. Further, Eric Martsolf praises Tate's portrayer. When Theresa returns to Tate and Brady, Tate apologizes to his father. Brady tells him he has nothing to be sorry about. He thanks Theresa for telling the verity and tells Tate how important he loves him. They tearfully embrace. Tate thanks Theresa for telling him the verity. She's so glad she did. At the sanitarium, Harris tells Stefen he'll be in touch. Stefen races down. Harris crumples to his bed, panting and holding his casket. Goldman returns, surprised to see him alive. Goldman! Harris exclaims. It's you. She reaches for her holstered gun, but a nanny enters. Goldman hurries down as Days of Our Lives. Tate rages against his parents. Eric Martsolf gets real about Brady's problematic sprat. All products and services featured are singly chosen by editors. Still, soaps.com may admit a commission on orders placed through its retail links, and the retailer may admit certain auditable data for counting purposes. Tate's had it rough on Days of Our Lives from enough much the moment he set bottom in Salem, demurred out of his academy to be set on the straight and narrow by Pater. Brady. From unrequited love for Holly, to being arrested and packed off to recovery for a medicine problem he doesn't have, the poor teen's been through the ringer. Now, however, he's back home, albeit in a halfway house, and after lashing out at Brady, it looks like he's eventually starting to realize his Pater just wants to help. Because through it all, the helpless Pater has just been trying everything he can to cover his sprat. Not that Tate's seen it that way. But also, that's what teenagers do, lash out at their parents when they re-hurt and spooked. When we spoke with Eric Martsolf a little while back, he'd plenitude to say about getting Jamie Martin Mann as his television son, Tate's problems and the threats of motherhood. Part of what makes Tate reverberate so important with observers has been, Martsolf says, thanks to Mann. He was extremely open to hearing my opinion about his choices and the kidney and understanding cleaner pieces for what it was, he recalled. It's not frequently that you have a sprat that youthful who's so open to vulnerability and being humble about what he's doing. I suppose that's part of why he's coming across so well is because he's humble and agitated to come to work and they threw him in the fire. He chuckles a bit at Tate's entrance. It's like, okay, you re the problematic sprat and by the way, you re-responsible for this girl's overdose. Ready, go! This cleaner pieces thing is no longer for the sick. In short, Martsolf couldn't be happier with how it's all turned out. When asked how he felt when he set up Tate would be progressed up to a teenager, the actor didn't vacillate for an alternate. I was thrilled, he participated. I still ain't freaking believe that I am the father of two 17-time-old boys because I am kind of a child of my own children. But no, in his early cleaner days on Heartstrings, his character, Ethan, had played a father to little Ethan. It was, he admits now, a bit of stretch. It's not easy to fake motherhood until you've been there. But now that he's where Brady is in life, with far lower drama, he can inoculate that into his character. You brought your children into the world, and the sense of responsibility you have for their well-being is crazy, he marveled. There's truckloads of responsibility on your head about keeping these kiddies safe and taken care of. So I relate, man. I get where Brady's coming from. There simply isn't anything you wouldn't do. You'd throw yourself in front of a machine for them. That's just most parents' instinct. As for working with man, Martsolf says it's been easy to find a connection right from the launch. I hadn't known Jamie preliminarily and he came on, he participated, he's a altitudinous sprat. I am like, wow, okay, then we go. He could beat me in basketball with his hands behind his reverse. It turns out he and I've a lot in common too. He's a theatrical Joe. He loves performance art, he loves to sing, he loves to dance, and that's where I come from as well. So we kind of gellate incontinently.